Hello everyone, and thank you for coming back to my channel. As I promised a little while ago, well, more like a very long while ago, I have finally made a tutorial on how to draw several kinds of leaves. Over the years, I found drawing leaves to be difficult to comprehend, and it has been one of the concepts that took me a while to understand. But no flower looks complete without its leaves. Also, leaves add to the overall flow of a design, which sometimes makes it necessary. So let's jump right into it. We're going to start by looking into some basic leaf designs and their variations. After we do that, I'm going to show a few more complicated leaves that are very common when drawing certain flowers. So let's start with the most simple leaf shape. First, we have to draw the middle line that goes across the leaf, which is called the midrib. Then I'm going to draw a curved line from each side of the midrib. The way I drew the curve, you may notice that the tip of the leaf is a little bit more narrow on the bottom of the leaf, but there are several other shapes that we might choose to design. For example, there could be a little bit of a dip towards the tip of the leaf, or there could be two of those. It always depends on the flower, so a good tip is to look at reference pictures and see what shape of leaf fits best for each flower. Another important part of designing a leaf are the veins. How you design the veins can be botanically accurate if that's what you're looking for, in which case you will have to look at reference books or look at the leaf itself from real life and lay out the veins exactly the way they are for that particular plant. Otherwise, if you have creative freedom, you can design your veins in whatever way you want them. You can lay out the veins to have equal distance between them, or you might choose a more stylized way, for example, starting off with condensed lines toward the bottom of the leaf and slowly spread them out as you reach the tip of the leaf. As you may have noticed so far, I'm curving the veins sometimes upwards, sometimes downwards. This changes the look and the whole perspective of the leaf, so it's really up to you to choose how you're going to lay out those veins. How you decide to lay out the veins on a leaf greatly impacts the way the leaf looks and its overall aesthetic and direction, so play around with different styles and different layouts until you decide which one you prefer the most. So far, this has been the easy part, but now let's move on to what was actually challenging for me, and I know for a lot of you out there when drawing leaves. In order to make a design look three-dimensional and interesting, you're going to want to design leaves in different angles. To do that, let's start with a basic leaf shape, just like we did previously. I'm going to want this leaf to have two curved sides. In order to do that, I will draw an axis across the part of the leaf that I want to look like it's curving inside. Now there's a small hemispherical area created between axis and outer edge of the leaf. I will mirror that shape inwards. Let's trace the new curled up leaf by outlining the new shape. Always remember to add the veins, but in this case, we will have to continue the veins on the curved part of the leaf so they too look like the curve inwards. Normally the lines would continue all the way to the edge, but in that case we have to find them in the other side of that newly designed piece, and this is how we have a leaf whose sides curve inwards. Now let's design a leaf where only one side curves inwards, but much more than the first one. So this time I'm going to draw the axis of where the leaf curves a little bit more towards the inside, closer to the midrib. And again, outline the new leaf. But here too we have to add the veins, so draw the veins the same way as you would if the leaf was flat and then curved them inwards from the axis to the new side of the leaf. Now let's draw a leaf whose tip curls downwards. First, I like to draw an axis across the general direction of the leaf, And I will also draw a 90-degree horizontal axis over the top of the curving leaf before it turns downwards. Then what I like to do is pretty much draw two circles, one around the part of the leaf that follows the vertical axis and one more on the other side of the leaf which also follows the vertical axis. Then I will use the horizontal axis as a guide to draw the flattened back of the leaf. When tracing the outline, it's time to add important details, like the part of the leaf that turns inwards and the veins. Now that we have explored some basic turns and twists of a leaf with a simple shape, let's move on to a leaf with a much more complicated shape. I would also encourage you to watch my tutorial on peony flowers if you haven't watched that yet, and then return to this one to learn how to draw the leaves. Just like in the simple design, I will start by drawing the midrib towards the general direction I want the leaf to go to. However, this leaf has 3 parts, so I will have to add 2 more midribs, one on each side of the middle one. I will keep the ones on the sides a little bit shorter than the middle, then I will draw a circular shape around each one of those. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just needs to surround the midrib. Then, with a different color, I will redesign the circular shape to resemble the shape of a peony leaf. Now, in order to make the leaf look like it's turning inside, I am going to curl one of the petals inwards. In order to do that, I will bend one of the 3 leaves midrib inwards and then draw circles around the midrib lines with another color. Let's go over the circular shapes and now design them into the peony leaf shape. For the leaf that bends inwards, I will use the same principle as I did with a simple design in the beginning. I will start the leaf just like I would if it was going to be straight, and when it reaches the point where it bends, I will turn my line inwards just like that. For the next example, I'm going to do the same thing for 2 leaves. This time I'll draw the midrib inwards in any place I want. Continue with the circular shape around each midrib, and then with another color, shape into a leaf with its outer side bending inwards. Don't forget to always add the veins and play around with how much you want each leaf to bend. Well, let's move on to an even more complicated leaf. So in this case, I need a leaf that has at least 5 tips, which makes a Japanese maple leaf a great example. I start off by drawing the midribs, the middle one being the largest and then the rest becoming consecutively smaller. Then I will do my round shape around the midribs without much care because we don't need it to be perfect yet. And then with another color, I will turn those round bulky shapes into an elegant Japanese maple leaf with pointy tips. Now let's draw a maple leaf from the side view. I find it easier to always start by drawing the midrib, and in a case like this of a leaf with multiple pointy tips, I always start with the middle one. In order to draw it from the side, I will draw the middle one and then only draw the midribs of one side of the leaf. Then with another color, I will draw the midribs of the other side, but on the same side as the first one, as if they're overlapping. I will prioritize the shape of half of the leaves, and then with another color I will shape the other half. Now that I'm going to trace the shape again, I will make sure that while I'm drawing, I'm choosing the outside first, and then for the leaves that are on the opposite side, I will only draw the tips that are visible. So far, you may have found some difficulty understanding the exact shape of the back of the leaf as it shapes inwards, and this can make your design look a little bit awkward. So far, I have been suggesting you to draw a midrib and then decide which is the point that will turn inwards, and then break the midrib towards the direction you want, then draw a little circle around the new shape, then design the new leaf based on that new circle. However, a second way of explaining the same thing would be to draw a straight leaf and then decide which is the part that is going to bend inwards, draw a vertical line across the area, and then line for line mirror inwards the shape that is left out. So choose the way that you find more comfortable. For the next leaf, I will be using this method because it will make everything easier. So the final shape of a leaf that I'm going to show is the most interesting one, but also the most complicated, and it's that of a chrysanthemum. Interesting because the chrysanthemum leaf, apart from also having multiple tips, it also has a lot of texture around each of those tips. So let's start with the middle midrib and then add 4 smaller ones, 2 on each side, and then circle them just like we did with all of the other leaves. Now, an important difference in the chrysanthemum leaf is that I have to add the veins before doing anything else. So I will add 2 veins on each midrib, 1 on each side, before even shaping the leaf, just the way it is right now with the circle shape, and I will make sure that I will add 2 sets of veins on the top part of the leaf too. Now here's where it starts to become a little bit complicated, but if you bear with me and don't bother with how messy and complicated it looks now, I can assure you that after a few tries you will understand this complicated leaf design. So now we'll go on and draw a circular shape around each and every one of the lines. This is why it was important to draw the veins, because I will draw a circular shape around each side veins and the tip midrib that is sticking out. When we're done doing that, it should look like a little tree. Then I will get a different color pencil and start creating the final and actual shape of the leaf by creating bumps that follow the circular shapes closely. I will do that for each and every one of the 5 parts of the leaf. I will suggest you make the tips of all the lines and midribs a little bit pointy, because this is how chrysanthemum leaves actually look like, but always follow closely the circular shapes that we have drawn underneath. Then finally, with my black pen, I will draw all the midribs and veins and then follow the exact shape I gave the leaf. However, and that's important, where the leaves meet each other, instead of continuing my lines all the way to the main middle, I will just go upwards, just like that, to the next leaf. So draw the midrib, then the veins and the shape of the outline, and then instead of drawing the outline all the way to the middle midrib, I'll just continue to the next part upwards. Don't try to make it perfectly symmetrical, because if you observe those beautiful leaves in nature, they're almost never completely symmetrical. They have 5 points, but other than that, the 2 sides can look a little bit different. This one took a few more extra steps because of its complicated nature, but if you follow those steps and practice enough, at some point you'll get there. So now let's draw a leaf with one side curled inwards, just like we did with all the other leaf shapes earlier. Just by looking at the process, it might seem very arduous, and truth be told, you have to be a little bit more concentrated with this one. After enough repetition, however, you will be able to draw it without having to go through all those steps. So as I was saying earlier, I'm going to use the other way of designing an inward petal, and that's by dissecting and mirroring. You can watch that video over and over again and practice all the steps from the beginning of the video, progressing into the more difficult leaves. I would suggest against trying to start with the chrysanthemum leaf, because as you can see, it's a very complicated shape. It's best to master each step before something like that, or you will feel disheartened, which is unfair to you. My advice would be to not rush anything. Do not be disappointed when it doesn't look good. It's part of the process of learning. And if you only take pleasure by the final result, it won't be fun, because in the beginning, every time you try to learn something, it almost never looks good, and that makes the whole endeavor disappointing. But if you find pleasure and fun in the process, then your progress and eventually good results will feel like a reward. I really hope you found that lesson helpful and interesting, and you learned a process you can follow that may help you design better leaves. So before we finish this, I would like to show you how to draw some leaves on a branch and on a flower. So let's start with the branch. I'm going to make a branch that is neither too simple or too complicated. It will have a main branch, and then smaller branches that each break into smaller ones. Then on each of those edges, I will go and draw a circular shape, just like we did when we were designing leaves. The circle shape will be the base for each of the leaves on that branch. Now with a different color, I will draw the shape that I want the leaf to have. In that case here, I'm choosing a simple leaf with a little bit of a point. That's a good moment to decide which leaf is on top and which one is under, and once I'm done with that, I'm going to have some of the leaves turned inwards to make it look like there is a gash of wind going through that branch. So I'll draw a line where I think the petal should turn, and then I will mirror the part of the leaf that's left out. After you get the hang of it, you can always try to play around with different textures, with different shapes, different types of veins, or remove leaves and try to make the design have an organic looking flow. I know I've mentioned flow a few times in my videos, especially with my flower videos, and it's kind of a vague concept now that I think of it. So maybe at some point in the future I may have to make a video just about flow. How do we make a flower or leaves or a snake or anything have a beautiful organic looking flow? As always, add the veins and then the other textures that you would like the leaves to have, and try to practice as much as you can. And finally, let's draw leaves on a flower and see how that is done. I will quickly draw a peony using the same patterns and principles that I showed you in all my previous flower videos. Again, if you need a reminder of those, or if you need help drawing flowers, I will be linking those videos below, as you might find them helpful. I'm not trying to draw the perfect peony right now. I just wanted to have 3/4 view so I can show you where the leaves should go. So when I was designing the peony, I started with a round shape in the middle, and then there were 2 dots, one towards the bottom of that circle and one towards the top of that circle. The top represents the middle of the opening of the flower, and the bottom point represents the place where the stem would start. Well, scientifically speaking, that would not be the correct anatomy of where the leaves would start. It would be a little bit lower, but artistically it works, so I'm going to use that point as a starting point for all my leaves. I will take a different color, blue in that case, and I will draw outward curving lines that will follow the same lines that I used when I was drawing the peony. Starting from the lower dot, I will draw those blue outward lines in the same curvature as I did for the flower, but in that case much longer. Those 3 lines that I drew are going to be the middle midrib of our 3-tip peony leaves. That's why I have to draw 2 more smaller midribs for each one of those leaves. And now I'm going to apply all the things that I told you earlier. I will make a circular shape around each midrib. In one of those leaves, one of the tips will go over the main midrib because I wanted it to look like it's curving inwards, and then I will outline them in the same manner as we did earlier. Maybe you think this looks awkward and you would choose to draw it towards the opposite side. And I think you're right, I think that does look awkward. This is why you will have to draw again and again and try different things, and in the end, choose what feels more organic for each flower you have drawn. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful. I know that it was a lot of information for just one video, so if there's something of all the things that you heard that you want me to concentrate a little bit more and make a more focused video, let me know. And also let me know if you have any suggestions of other things that you would like to learn. In the meantime, keep drawing, keep practicing, and cherish the journey. Thank you again for watching. I appreciate all the beautiful comments, and I'm looking forward to making a new video.